Okay, well, good Saturday morning, Jet fans. Happy wild card weekend, Jet fans. It is 11:28 a.m., January 4th, 2020. It's been a while since we did a video, actually. Last video we did was prior um, to Christmas, I believe. So hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, a happy and healthy and blessed New Year to everybody as well. Um, Try to catch up to speed, do it very quickly, as I will do some more videos next week to recap Wildcard Weekend. But let's start off with first our Jets. They went up to Buffalo. They beat the Buffalo Bills, a wild card team, and ended up 7-9 on their record. Um, Sam Darnold had a touchdown pass to Crowder, a few field goals, a few missed field goals, and I would say for the first quarter or so, they played the Bills' starting team, and then the Bills started pulling back their quarterback and their starters to prepare for wild card game, which will take place this afternoon. So the Jets end 7-9, and you could look at it this way: they went 1-7 in their first 8 games, and went 6-2 in their last 8 games. A lot of people are saying you got to look at the whole 16-game picture. That is true. You ended up 7-9 over 16 games, but at 1-7, and you lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins in back-to-back weeks. You look and say, how many more wins are we going to get? Well, after those two last losses, they wound up picking up 6 out of the last 8. They beat the Giants, they beat Washington, they beat Miami, they beat Pittsburgh, they beat Buffalo, and they beat. I think I said Washington. Um, they lost to New England, um, and trying to think of the other team they lost to. Oh, and Baltimore, which they gave Baltimore a good fight. They really did. Um, Now, I've been saying all along I'm not a huge Adam Gase fan. I do think the team plays for him. I do think he is set in his ways. Can he be a winning coach? I think if the team is not rebuilding, yes, he could be a winning coach. I think if the team is built right now to win, yes, he could be successful. At the moment, the Jets have a lot of question marks. They have a banged up offensive line, not a very good offensive line. They don't have a pass rusher, edge rusher. Their secondary was depleted. I mean, this is just a startling statement. Marcus May was the only defensive starter to start every game without injury last year. He played all 16 games. Bless Austin filled in nicely when Poole was injured at one point. Tremaine Johnson with that big contract got hurt, and basically he's done with the team because you can tell. The Jets lost Quincy Enunwa. I think it was in week 1 or week 2. The Jets lost Avery Williams. They lost C.J. Mosley. So I will go over grades next week. I just want to kind of compile everything. I'm trying to just put this together quickly, not to go too far, not to be 2 weeks out of a video. So Adam Gase, the season ends 7-9, as I stated, and his press conference at the end of the year, he's asked about Le'Veon Bell. And basically his answer is, they ask him, is Le'Veon Bell going to be on this team next year? And his answer is, you got to speak to Joe Douglas tomorrow, who's the GM. Now, whether Gase wants him on the team or doesn't want him on the team, that's not an answer you really give. Now, this question did come from Manish Mehta, who is a New York Daily News writer, who, since the Rex Ryan regime, has been mixed in controversy. Mehta had what I would like to call moles on the Rex Ryan team, people feeding him information. He was a huge Todd Bowles fan in the beginning and then flipped his switch. He was a huge Adam Gase fan. I mean, one of his early tweets was, "Relax, Jet fans. This is the coach you want. He'll get the best out of Sam Darnold," and now he's destroying him. In the midst of all this, turns out there was like a burner Twitter account out there. Fingers are pointing towards Manish. Fingers are pointing towards the Jets. Fingers are pointing towards Adam Gase. Fingers are pointing towards Adam Gase's family. I mean, it's just like, when is this team just going to be about football and winning football? But you can see when Manish answered this question, Gase was not in the mood, and I think from who it came from made it even worse. So he says you have to ask Joe Douglas the next day. Now, excuse me, I have tweeted this out the couple of days later after Joe Douglas's press conference. I think Douglas's press conference was Tuesday or Wednesday. And all season, after Joe Douglas was brought on, and remember, Mike McCagnon was fired after the draft. Joe Douglas brought in Khalil as the center. He traded away Leonard Williams, which looks like a great trade right now to see who we get for him. But everybody was like, you got to give Joe Douglas for his first offseason. You got to give Joe Douglas his first draft. You got to give Joe Douglas, him and Adam Gase, get through the season and then get on the same page. And then Joe Douglas comes out and he basically gives a press conference. He doesn't wow anybody. I mean, he doesn't come out with that you play to win the game scenario where Herm had everybody, eyes glued to the TV and to the podium. He didn't come out with the Rex Ryan. I didn't come here to kiss Bill Belichick's rings. I didn't, I mean, Rex's first press conference, that's what he said. And then he comes out and he says, there's a lot of reporters out here. It must be like we're meeting the president. And he says, well, don't worry, we'll meet him pretty soon too. Meaning that the Jets would win the Super Bowl and go to the White House. And I mean, the whole place just erupted in applause. This was Joe Douglas coming out like a CEO, like the head of a major company, and just basically reviewing and looking towards the future and strategizing. Excuse me, a little dry today. They asked him, LeVeon Bell. His answer was Le'Veon has a 3-year contract. He's on this team, but I will field any talks, any questions, any phone calls. That's his job. Now, you want him to say, no, Le'Veon's our guy. He's going to be our star. He's going to be our stud. But you know what? Maybe Le'Veon is not the running back for this team. Maybe their offense is not suited for him. Maybe it's Gase that does not want this offense to go that way. I mean, Gase is a very stubborn coach. He alienated a lot of players in Miami, and it looks like he may be doing the same thing here. I don't know. Le'Veon, who has been the epitome of a team player this year. When they first got him, I thought he was going to be a problem. With his rap album being dropped, and him sitting out with the Steelers, I think all season he had one or two kind of kickbacks towards the coach. One was, if you give me the ball more, I know what I could do, something like that. That was the games that Le'Veon missed, and Bilal Powell had more carries. And then after the Gase comment, Le'Veon just tweeted out, I think it was the guy from The Office, with just a confused face. So he's yet to really throw anybody under the bus. I think he wants to be here. After the game, he tweeted out that there's a lot more for this team to do, and they had to build. And it wasn't like he was jumping ship. Jamal Adams the same way. I think they want to be here, but they want to be paid. Ironically, Robbie Anderson, who I was never really a huge fan of, I think he's a talent, but I don't think he's a huge talent, proved a lot this year. He ran different routes. He made different catches. I think he only had 5 or 6 touchdowns, but he became a possession receiver at one point as well. He could field free agency this year. And he already said that the Jets will not get the hometown discount, and it would be silly of him not to field offers. You can't get mad at that. I mean, that's the way Joe Douglas is saying with trades and whatnot. I think, and he said also he wants to play for a Super Bowl. He wants to play in the Super Bowl. So is he tired of sub 8-8 teams? Is he tired of losing? So we shall see. I think if he gets the right price, he jumps ship. Could the Jets franchise him? I'm not sure. But, I could see him going to a place like the Eagles. I could see him going to Miami. I could see him going to Tennessee with Tannehill. So I mean, that's just we'll see that as free agency hits. I think that's March or whatever. Um, so what else around this team? Uh, Sam Darnold, his statistics went up higher from last year. I believe he had 12 or 13 interceptions all season. 7 of them came within a 2 game period. So he played 13 games. He was 7-6 in those 13 games. Um, you know, some of the games he made fantastic plays. Some of the games he made you scratch your head. He has a lot more to learn. I think he's on the right path. I hope that he learns to stay away from those potential high risk passes. Sometimes he hits them, and sometimes it's an INT. But I think he's on the right path. He did this with a banged up offensive line. He did this with a lot of starters out. He did this with Le'Veon Bell not getting 1,000 yards. Le'Veon Bell didn't surpass 100 yards rushing all season. So I will do grades on Monday as we review the wild card. Uh, I will also go over some news and notes on Monday. At the moment, Ron Rivera has been named the coach of the Washington Redskins. Cleveland Browns fired Freddie Kitchens. Um, and they actually contacted Matt Rule to come and interview, and he said no. Yesterday, Mike McCarthy was interviewing with the New York Giants as they got rid of Pat Shermer. And on the hot seat is Zimmer, the head coach of the Vikings. And I'm just trying to look at my notes here. The Vikings are at New Orleans tomorrow, so if it's one and done for the Vikings, it may be that he's gone. Also a hot prospect is the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. I can't think of his name right now. He was the head coach, I believe, of the Denver Broncos, and he was hired to coach the Colts and then turned down the job. I can't think of his name. But so today is Wild Card Saturday. The early game is Buffalo at Texans. J.J. Watt is returning. I think the Texans with home field will pull this game out in a squeaker. Um, I don't have the spreads or anything in front of me, but I think the Texans are favored. I'm going to say the Texans win this game 27-20. Okay, sorry, I had to pause for a second. So I think the Texans squeak by, I'm going to say 27-14, 27-13. I'm watching NFL Network now, and they're reporting 2017, the Bills are in the playoffs. There are, I think she said, 11 players left over from that roster. So they're not a team that hasn't been to the playoffs before. They have some playoff players there. But I think the Texans, home field, J.J. Watt, I think the Texans squeak this one out by a touchdown or more. And maybe that's not a squeak, but I think the game is closer throughout than it is in the final couple of minutes. Tonight is a game that has a lot of interest. Titans at the Patriots. There's been a lot of talk that Tom Brady will not be a Patriot next year. He may not be a player in the NFL next year. He may be on another team next year. There's reports that he put his house up in Massachusetts up for sale. I don't see, even if he was on another team, him selling a house in Massachusetts. Basically, he's lived there for 20 years plus. So I don't know if that means anything. It could be that Belichick retires. Ironically, the Patriots have never gone to a Super Bowl when they had to play Wild Card Weekend. When they didn't have a bye in the playoffs, they've never made it to the Super Bowl round. So that's there. The Patriots take on the Titans, and it's just ironic that Vrabel, the ex-Patriot linebacker, is the head coach of the Titans. It's also ironic that they made the switch from Mariota to Ryan Tannehill, who, as everybody knows, was a Miami Dolphin quarterback under Adam Gase. And Adam Gase got Miami to the playoffs one year when he was there. There's been a lot of talk that Tannehill's been a lot better since Adam Gase left. I mean, he went to a different system, went to a different team altogether. So it's not like he was better in Miami without Adam Gase. He went to a different system, a different team. You know, I mean, if he goes to the Patriots, you're going to say that Bill Belichick developed him better than Adam Gase, probably, but you can't use that as a measuring stick. Um, as a Jet fan, I never root for the Patriots ever, except if it's going to help the Jets, which it never really does. Um, do I think the Titans have a chance here? Uh, they have to pull what the 2009 Ravens did um, in Wild Card Weekend. They have to pull what the New York Jets in 2010 did on the divisional side. Um, keep Brady off the field, knock Brady around, um, and score when you have possessions. Uh, listen, the Patriots at home in the playoffs have not lost many games. Off the top of my head, I know Jets and Ravens beat them back-to-back years. 2009 Ravens, and that was the year that the Jets had beaten the Cincinnati Bengals the night before. 2010, the Jets went into Foxborough um, on divisional week and beat them 28-21. You know, can they be beaten? Yes. I don't think they are the strong arm that they were offensively. It's all Edelman. Me and my father said, one of the games the week before Christmas, it's 3rd and 4. It's going to Edelman. Why aren't you covering Edelman? They don't have Gronk. It's all Edelman. But you never take away from Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. But this could very well be the end of the era of Belichick, Brady, New England. It could very well be that Belichick retires. I mean, I don't know. Ironically, 20 years ago today, Bill Belichick resigned as the HC of the NYJ. So I'm going to say 20 years to the day, Bill Belichick's career with Tom Brady comes to an end. And the Tennessee Titans win 21-20. Okay? I'll even say 2017 on a last-minute field goal. And we'll get into more into that 20-year anniversary. Tomorrow, we have Vikings at Saints. And, I didn't think much of this game, but, after last year and the Saints and, getting knocked out of the playoffs with that terrible call, the terrible pass interference call against, I think it was, I don't know if it was the Vikings or the Rams. I forgot what team it was. And then the year before on the Miracle in Minnesota, this is, I think they're out to just take that next step. So I think the Vikings are no match today for the Saints. The Saints, the home field, the Superdome, the loudness of the crowd. I think the Saints win this one like 31-20, 31-21. Seahawks at Eagles. Now, let's be honest. The NFC East was crap. The Eagles beat the Giants on the last game of the season to wrap up the NFC East. They either ended up 9-7 or 8-8. I don't even remember. Seattle. The one thing I don't like is West Coast team flying across to the East Coast. But this is not going to be, I don't believe, an early game. I don't know the time of the game, but I don't think it's an early game. I don't think the Eagles really have a chance. They cut and pasted a lot of their players, just like the Jets did, really. If the Jets are in the NFC East, I mean, they're in contention the whole year. But I don't think the Eagles are a playoff team. They just happen to make the playoffs because they were the best of the worst in the NFC East. So I think the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, Marshawn Lynch gets to the next round. So that's my predictions. I think the Seahawks win this game. And depending on the weather, I don't know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow in Philly, but it's shitty here now in New Jersey. I think the Seahawks win it like 30-17. I don't think it's much of a game at all. And that's it. We'll keep our eye on the coaching carousel. But let's go back 20 years ago today. Okay, I can remember right after New Year's. I think it was January 2nd. attended the game. It was Jets Seattle, 1999. The Jets would end up, I believe, either 9-7 or 8-8. They started 1-7 that year. They lost Vinny Testaverde. They lost Testaverde in the opening game. The Parcells went with Rick Meyer for a few games, and then Ray Lucas. And Lucas at one point just took over the offense. There were two games that they probably could have won that they lost. Lucas, I remember throwing a last-minute interception down by the goal line. But they were a hot team. And there was rumors that Parcells was going to retire after the last game. And I can remember we went in and we beat Seattle. Curtis Martin was running over players. And it was me, my father, and my buddy George were at the game. And we were all chanting one more year because we knew we were 1 year away. Next game, next day, actually, and I'm looking now, the Seattle Eagle game is 4:40 tomorrow. So the West Coast trip to East Coast isn't that bad. It's like a 1 o'clock game for Seattle. And Parcells announced that he's retiring from coaching, but he would be the president and head of football operations for the Jets, and that Bill Belichick would take over as a head coach. Now, I read a lot of Jet information. I have a book. Parcells actually wrote like a diary his last season in the NFL, and I think he knew that season was going to be it. And he basically said that Belichick said he was waiting a whole year for this. And I think Belichick thought that after the loss of the AFC Championship game, he was going to get it because Parcells was just beat up. So January 4th, okay, now I'm reading this yesterday also. I didn't know all this information, but now with social media, you get it, and the internet. January 4th, Bill Belichick is at the facility in Hofstra, okay? And at this point, Mr. Hess, Leon Hess is gone, and the Johnsons have taken over ownership of the Jets, or they're about to take over ownership of the Jets. And it's reported that Bill Belichick actually leaves the Jet facility in a trench coat and a briefcase, so almost like a cloak and dagger type situation. And they're very confused to why he's leaving. And they said that early in the morning, him and the coaches would work out together. So he was on the treadmill, and they're talking about going to the college bowl games and scouting out players. So it was business as usual. The only thing is he was going to be named head coach in a few hours. He comes back, and he has scribbled on a napkin, which is, I don't know who has that napkin, because that napkin's got to be probably worth a couple of $1,000s right now. I resign as HC of the NYJ. He tells the Jet PR man or whoever it is prior to the press conference. I believe Carl Banks, who's the player development coach, asked Belichick. He congratulates him if he needs anything. He goes, no, not right now. The other coaches are all set. He goes and he tells Parcells, what's going on, and he does his press conference. And he announces that he's resigning. At that point, they said Parcells did not know. He said he was surprised by it. He said he was disappointed in it. And then, as you know, a couple of days later, he is the head coach of the Patriots. His first year or so is not that great. 2001, Tom Brady steps in, and for the last 20 years or so, 9 Super Bowls, 6 championships, and it's been Patriot Nation. My two gripes. If Bill Parcells was done with coaching, I could understand it, but he went to the Dallas Cowboys after us. He could have stayed that last year. They threw, in my opinion, Al Groh into the starting head coach job, and Al Groh just used it as a year to get head coaching on his resume. Then he went to, I think it was West Virginia. Parcells, as a man who worked for Leon Hess and and said he thought the world of Leon Hess. Should have stayed on that last year with Mr. Hess looking down at him and maybe coaching this team to a Super Bowl. Because if you remember that 2000 season, the Jets were 4-0 at one point, I believe 7-4 at another point, and they missed the playoffs by one game, the last game of the season against the Ravens. They could have wrapped it up the week before, and they lost against the Lions with John Hall missing kicks. So 20 years ago today, the whole face of the whole face of the AFC East changed. The whole face of the NFL changed because the Jets were there to take it. There's also talk that Bill Belichick got a signing bonus from the Jets, and he took that with him as well. So listen, they're both geniuses. Belichick was the head coach of the Jets twice, never coached a game for us. My other gripe was on the two Bills, which was, I believe, a 30 for 30 special on ESPN or NFL Network. At the end, they were talking about their time with the Giants, and they were looking at the Super Bowl trophies, and they were at MetLife Stadium, and they said, "Why don't you go over to the jet locker room?" And both of them refused, like it was taboo. You know, that's what I don't like. You know, Belichick did not get a raw deal here. Belichick was going to be head coach. It was his team to run. He did not want to be there. Now, whether Robert Kraft offered him more, whether he didn't want to be here with the Johnsons, I don't know. Parcells came in. He was given everything. Mr. Hess bent over backwards to make him the head coach. He coached 3 seasons. We were a play away from the Super Bowl. Probably in 2000, we make that next step. Who knows? But he walked away. He became president. Then he retired from coaching. And then a couple of years later, he's coaching the Dallas Cowboys. So that's my gripe. The Jets did everything for this coach with open arms, and they both kind of pissed on him, on the team. But that's what happens. I will talk about Adam Gase and Joe Douglas next week. Enjoy Wild Card Weekend. It was a very, very strange season, to say the least, even with the Jets. And I've been through many, many strange seasons. But, you know, Mono, burner account, LeVeon Bell, Jamal Adams, trade talks, Tremaine Johnson, seeing ghosts, Baker Mayfield, Monday night with OBJ, just crazy. So happy Wild Card Weekend. I am not rooting for the Bills. I can't root for the Bills because they're rivals of the Jets as well as New England. But I am rooting for the NFC. And who knows, Monday we could be talking about the end of an era in New England and in the NFL. We shall see. But enjoy your weekend. Once again, happy, healthy, and blessed New Year to all of you. And I will have a video out on Monday. Check us out, www.nyjetstories.com, www.nyjetstories.com. Facebook, our Facebook page is NYJet Stories. Twitter is our Twitter handle at NYJet Stories. And of course, here on YouTube, Alex Pazziali, NYJet Stories. Give us your comments. Give us your take, how you feel, what you do game day, what you do during the playoffs, and the Jets aren't in it. And we hope to hear from you soon.